Hey guys, John coming to you from Evolve Custom Rod Shop, showing you one of my new how-to series on how to place and wrap a guide. Mark your guide, that's the first thing to do. This happens to be a little double-footed guide, so the way I'm going to secure this down is with a piece of masking tape on the front. I find this works the easiest for me. There are other techniques out there, but this one works for me. You're going to find your own technique. These are just suggestions. First thing I'm going to do is run my line over top, pick my thread of choice, which in this case will be black, and I'm going to wrap the string around once, and then I will start my jam knot. This will allow the tag end to stay secured. Later on in the video, I will show you a little closer on how that jam knot works. Make sure you keep your fingers on the wraps as you're going around until you have 3 to 4 wraps on there to make sure that tag end's secured. Otherwise, you'll have to start over again. Once your first couple wraps are done, you can square up the edges. It's easy to do now or at the end, whichever you prefer. There are also different techniques on squaring those up. Those will also be shown. Now you need to grab a fresh razor blade. The fresher your razor blade is, the easier it will be to cut your thread. I know it's not a tall order to cut thread, but believe it or not, it doesn't take long for these things to dull. You can really start telling because it's really hard to get that nice clean cut. I just lifted up on the tag end and sliced it. Didn't have to be perfect. Now I'm using the power wrapper here. If you notice, I started going over top of the thread. This is what happens sometimes when you go up on the guide foot. So what I do is back it back off itself and then run it back up manually and kind of guide the thread to make sure it doesn't come back across itself. And then I'll wrap the rest of the way up the guide until I got about 5 or 6 wraps before the end of the guide wrap. Straightening everything up, burnishing. This will get any gaps out. You can do this now, you can do this at the end, whatever works best for you. Okay, now I'm going to take my thread pull through, which is nothing more than a loop of thread. I'm using Dacron backing for some fly line. It's white. The reason I like it is because whenever I'm pulling through colored threads, the color of the pull through won't go onto the thread. Hold the end down, pull it tight, and then pull it through. Make sure you always have tension on the end. I'll then lift up on that thread after I've pulled it through and cut off the excess. Pack it down, burnish it, clean it up, make it look real good. Okay, now I'm going to show you another technique for starting your wrap. This is the tape method. Use this all the time. Don't necessarily make it right or wrong. I find now that a lot of times just doing it by hand is easier. But when you just get started, this makes it really simple to do a jam knot. And it also allows both hands to be free so you can kind of learn the process. Some people are totally against this. Some people don't really care. Just remember, this is custom rod building. It's up to you what you want to do. Once I get a few wraps on there, I'll take the piece of tape off, pull the tag end around, and then cut it off. You can see I just lift up, slice it, Very simple. Slice it as close as I can. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, now I'm wrapping this one manually. And you can see it takes about the same amount of time as if you were to do it with the power wrapper. You have a little bit more control when you're wrapping by hand. If you're about to see the thread go over itself, you can actually see that. Where when you're power wrapping, it's usually moving too fast for you to even notice. So it's not a bad thing to wrap by hand, even if you have a power wrapper. Sometimes power wrappers come into play when you're doing a bunch of guides or you're doing like all my bay trolling guides, I double wrap them. So it's really simple to go up and back with the power wrap. And once you get good at it, you can move faster and faster, which is really helpful. But there's nothing wrong with hand wrapping. Pull my Dacron pull through. A lot of people use braid, use monofilament. You can buy pull-throughs from all the distributors. They work fine too. I found they broke too much, so I like this Dacron holds up pretty well. Braid works really well too. The only problem with braid is sometimes the moss green will come off on my white thread, and you can totally notice it. It looks like a stain. Now this is a different way to cut it off. You pull the string to the edge of your guide wrap, and then you slice it. Once you've sliced it off at the edge of your guide wrap, then you pull the rest through, and it just hides itself underneath the thread. Okay, now we're going to work on a single-footed guide. These are a little bit more difficult, especially when you go into micro guides. This one's actually a fairly sizable guide when it comes to micro guides. So I'm going to use a piece of my thin masking tape and tape it down towards the front of the guide. You can see here it's not foolproof. It doesn't always hold, so you got to really take your time. Once you got it secured enough, again, you're going to start your wrap. Again, I'll do this by hand because I think it's a little bit quicker than the tape method. Tape method also really works when you got a really lightweight blank and you don't have a whole lot of material to hold on to, like your rod blank is not that thick. The tape method is really helpful in that. So again, I'll pack it up, get the guide wrap started. Once I get on the guide to almost where the tape is, I'll pull the tape off. You notice me switching back and forth from manual to power. That works. That's how I like to do it. Again, you'll find your own technique with this. And if you don't have a power wrapper, that doesn't mean you can't do this. My first few rods were done by hand, and they turned out just fine. Again, holding tension before you cut it, keep your finger, pull the line through. Once you pull the line through, you can pull the line back towards the thread carriage, and that'll keep tension on it, and then you pull it through, and then of course cut your excess. Straighten up your threads, burnish them up, make them look pretty. This next technique is really, really helpful on really small guides. You see I'm taking this guide, taking a standard Bic lighter. Don't use a torch, it gets way too hot. Heat that guide up foot a little. And then what I'm going to do is run it over a low temp glue stick or guide foot adhesive. And then what I do is find my mark on the blank, find center, and press it down. And I'm going to hold it down for a minute. That seems to work the best. I'm using Flex Coat guide foot adhesive. And if you just hold it down for a minute, believe it or not, the heat of your finger will actually keep that glue warm enough until it sets. Start your guide wrap. Now you can see here I have a large gap at the beginning. I'm going to show you something cool, and actually I'll show you in more detail at the end of the video. But let's say I want to close that gap. I can just pull the tag end around it, and not only will it tighten the wrap up, but it'll bring it closer to the guide if you're too far away. By the way, as far as how many wraps before a guide, well, that's totally up to you. Some people say 3, some people say 5. Well, you know what? I've put 100 wraps before a guide. Some people will wrap all the way from the handle of the rod all the way up to the first guide. So there's no rules to this. This is custom. This is what you want to do. Make this your own. You know, depending on the style of rod will depend on how much I do. If I'm trying to save weight, I go closer to the guide because all you're trying to do is hold the guide down. As you can see here, I got going pretty fast. Well, the only problem with that was I went too fast and I wrapped it over itself. You know, you really got to be careful of that, especially with a power wrapper. It's not an exact science. Once you have it, hold the tension, cut the line, run it through the loop in your pull through. Keep tension on the line by pulling it back towards you and then pull it through. Now this technique is the one where you just pull it to the edge, cut it, and then pull the tag end underneath the rest of the threads. Again, you know, you can choose what you want to do. This is a close-up of how a jam knot works. Okay? What you're trying to do is cross over that tag end. And you're going to continue to cross over that tag end. And the more you cross over it, the more it's going to hold down. Now, let me show you what happens if you don't have enough turns and you let go. You lose it. So you got to start all over again. So make sure you got enough wraps on there to hold. Some blanks are slicker than others, so you need an extra wrap or two. That's really important. And you can see here, I'm wrapping it around, 4 wraps into it, and I can let go. Now you see that loose end? Watch this. This was the technique I was showing you, how you can close that gap and also even up the end of the wrap. Works really well, very effective. You can sometimes move the threads around a little bit. Just be careful though if you're moving up the rod because the diameter gets smaller, so your wrap's going to loosen. Here's another look at the jam knot. See how that tag end's just getting wrapped under there? That's all you need to do. And I'm using the power of the wrapper as opposed to my hand on this. And that's it, guys. Hey, thanks for watching. Any comments, please leave them. And remember, this isn't necessarily the right way. But if you have a better way, thanks for sharing.